a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Black Panther film. Black Panther is a 2018 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, it is the 18th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film is directed by Ryan Coogler, who co-wrote the screenplay with Joe Robert Cole, and stars Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, Black Panther, alongside Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, Martin Freeman, Daniel Kaluuya, Letitia Wright, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, and Andy Serkis. In Black Panther, T'Challa is crowned king of Wakanda following his father's death. But his sovereignty is challenged by an adversary who plans to abandon the country's isolationist policies and begin a global revolution. Wesley Snipes expressed interest in working on a Black Panther film in 1992, but the project did not come to fruition. In September 2005, Marvel Studios announced a Black Panther film as one of 10 based on Marvel characters and distributed by Paramount Pictures. Mark Bailey was hired to write a script in January 2011. Black Panther was announced in October 2014, and Boseman made his first appearance as the character in Captain America: Civil War. By 2016, Cole and Coogler had joined. Additional cast joined in May, making Black Panther the first Marvel film with a predominantly black cast. Principal photography took place from January to April 2017 at 2/Screen Gems Studios in the Atlanta metropolitan area and Busan, South Korea. Black Panther premiered in Los Angeles on January 29, 2018, and was released theatrically in the United States on February 16, 2018, in 2D, 3D, IMAX and other premium large formats. The film received praise from critics for its direction, screenplay, acting, production and costume design, and soundtrack, though the computer-generated effects received some criticism. Critics considered it one of the best films set in the MCU and noted its cultural significance. It grossed over $1.3 billion worldwide, breaking numerous box office records including the highest-grossing film by a black director. It is the second highest-grossing film of 2018 behind Avengers: Infinity War, and received numerous awards and nominations. A sequel is in development. Plot: 5 African tribes war over a meteorite containing vibranium. One warrior ingests a heart-shaped herb, affected by the metal and gains superhuman abilities, becoming the first Black Panther. He unites all but the Jabari tribe to form the nation of Wakanda. Over centuries, the Wakandans used the vibranium to develop advanced technology and isolate themselves from the world by posing as a third-world country. In 1992, Wakanda's King T'Chaka visits his brother N'Jobu, who is working undercover in Oakland, California. T'Chaka accuses N'Jobu of assisting black market arms dealer Ulysses Klaue with stealing vibranium from Wakanda. N'Jobu's partner reveals he is Zuri, another undercover Wakandan, and confirms T'Chaka's suspicions. In the present day, following T'Chaka's death, his son T'Challa returns to Wakanda to assume the throne. He and Okoye, the leader of the Dora Milaje regiment, extract T'Challa's ex-lover Nakia from an undercover assignment so she can attend his coronation ceremony with his mother Amanda and younger sister Shuri. At the ceremony, the Jabari tribe's leader M'Baku challenges T'Challa for the crown in ritual combat. T'Challa defeats M'Baku and persuades him to yield rather than die. When Klaue and his accomplice Eric Stevens steal a Wakandan artifact from a London museum, T'Challa's friend and Okoye's lover W'Kabi urges him to bring Klaue back alive. T'Challa, Okoye, and Nakia travel to Busan, South Korea, where Klaue plans to sell the artifact to CIA agent Everett K. Ross. A firefight erupts and Klaue attempts to flee, but is caught by T'Challa, who reluctantly releases him to Ross' custody. Klaue tells Ross that Wakanda's international image is a front for a technologically advanced civilization. Eric attacks and extracts Klaue as Ross is gravely injured protecting Nakia. Rather than pursue Klaue, T'Challa takes Ross to Wakanda, where their technology can save him. While Shuri heals Ross, T'Challa confronts Zuri about Njobu. Zuri explains that Njobu planned to share Wakanda's technology with people of African descent around the world to help them conquer their oppressors. As Chaka arrested Njobu, the latter attacked Zuri and forced Chaka to kill him. Chaka ordered Zuri to lie that Njobu had disappeared and left behind Njobu's American son in order to maintain the lie. This boy grew up to be Stevens, a U.S. Black Ops soldier who adopted the name Killmonger. Meanwhile, Killmonger kills Kaluuya and takes his body to Wakanda. He is brought before the tribal elders, revealing his identity and claim to the throne. Killmonger challenges T'Challa to ritual combat, where he kills Zuri, defeats T'Challa, and hurls him over a waterfall to his presumed death. Killmonger ingests the heart-shaped herb and orders the rest incinerated, but Nakia extracts one first. Killmonger, supported by Wahhabi and his army, prepares to distribute shipments of Wakandan weapons to operatives around the world. Nakia, Shuri, Ramonda, and Ross flee to the Jabari tribe for aid. They find a comatose T'Challa, rescued by the Jabari in repayment for sparing M'Ku's life. Healed by Nakia's herb, T'Challa returns to fight Killmonger, who dons his own Black Panther suit. Wahhabi and his army fight Shuri, Nakia, and the Dora Milaje, while Ross remotely pilots a jet and shoots down planes carrying the vibranium weapons. M'Ku and the Jabari arrive to reinforce T'Challa. Confronted by Okoye, Wahhabi and his army stand down. Fighting in Wakanda's vibranium mine, T'Challa disrupts Killmonger's suit and stabs him. Killmonger refuses to be healed, choosing to die a free man rather than be incarcerated. T'Challa establishes an outreach center at the building where Njobu died, to be run by Nakia and Shuri. In a mid-credits scene, T'Challa appears before the United Nations to reveal Wakanda's true nature to the world. In a post-credits scene, Shuri helps Bucky Barnes with his recuperation. Cast. Additionally, John Canny and Florence K. Sumber reprise their respective roles of Chaka and Ao from Captain America: Civil War. Carney Sunatandwa portrays a young Chaka, and Sterling K. Brown plays his brother Njobu, who is Killmonger's father. Wakandan elders in the film include Isaac Dabankole for the River Tribe, Connie Chium for the Mining Tribe, Dorothy Steele for the Merchant Tribe, and Danny Sapani for the Border Tribe. Sidel Noel appears as Zlaswa, a member of the Dora Milaje. Maraja Abney, Jane Shea Adams Ginyard, Maria Hippolyta, Marie Morum, Janelle Stevens, Zola Williams, Christine Hollingsworth, and Shawnette Renee Wilson also play Doras. Nabiabi initially announced that she was playing criminal Tilda Johnson, but her character was simply named Linda in the final film due to Gabrielle Dennis being cast as Johnson in the second season of Luke Cage. Comedian Trevor Noah voices Griot, a Wakandan ship AI. Black Panther co-creator Stan Lee has a cameo as a patron in the South Korean casino, and Sebastian Stan makes an uncredited appearance in the post-credits scene reprising his role as Bucky Barnes. Development. In June 1992, Wesley Snipes announced his intention to make a film about Black Panther, and began work on it by that August. Snipes felt that Africa had been portrayed poorly in Hollywood films previously, and that this film could highlight the majesty of the continent due to the character being noble and the antithesis of African stereotypes. The next July, Snipes planned to begin the Black Panther after starring in Demolition Man, and a month later he expressed interest in making sequels to the film as well. In January 1994, Snipes entered talks with Columbia Pictures to portray Black Panther, and Black Panther co-creator Stan Lee joined the film by March. It entered early development by May. Snipes had discussions with several different screenwriters and directors about the project, including Mario Van Peebles and John Singleton. When the film had not progressed by January 1996, Lee explained that he had not been pleased with the scripts for the project. Snipes said that there was confusion among those unfamiliar with the comics, who thought that the film was about the Black Panther Party. In July 1997, Black Panther was listed as part of Marvel Comics' film slate, and in March 1998, Marvel reportedly hired Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti, who at the time were editors of the Black Panther comics, to work on it. Quesada and Palmiotti have both denied this. That August, Corporate problems at Marvel put the project on hold. A year later, Snipes was set to produce, and possibly star, in the film. While Artisan Entertainment announced a deal with Marvel in May 2000 to co-produce, finance, and distribute the film. In March 2002, Snipes planned to make the film or Blade 3 over the next year. In July 2004, Blade 3 director David S. Goyer felt Snipes starring as Black Panther in addition to Marvel's Blade might be overkill. In September 2005, Marvel chairman and CEO Avi Arad announced Black Panther as one of 10 films being developed by the new Marvel Studios. In June 2006, Snipes said he hoped to have a director for the project soon. And Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige reiterated in February 2007 that Black Panther was in development. By that July, John Singleton had been approached to direct the film. In March 2009, Marvel hired writers to help come up with creative ways to launch its lesser-known properties, including Black Panther. Nate Moore, the head of the writers' program, was overseeing the development of Black Panther specifically. Snipes' involvement stalled at this time, as he was convicted of failing to file a tax return, serving his sentence from June 2010 to April 2013. In January 2011, Marvel Studios hired documentary filmmaker Mark Bailey to write a script for Black Panther, to be produced by Feige. By October 2013, the metal vibranium, which comes from Black Panther's home nation Wakanda, was introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Marvel had considered showing Wakanda itself as early as Iron Man 2, but were waiting until they had a full idea of how to depict it. In October 2014, Feige announced that Black Panther would be released on November 3, 2017, with Chadwick Boseman cast as T'Challa, Black Panther. Boseman did not audition for the role, instead discussing what he wanted to do with the part with Marvel, and earned $2 million for appearing in the film. The actor was set to first portray the character in Captain America: Civil War. Snipes gave his support for the project, despite no longer being involved. Feige said that Marvel was considering minority writers and directors for the film, but would prioritize the best filmmakers, the best writers, the best directors possible. So I'm not going to say for sure that we're going to hire from any one demographic. He added that they had met with former Black Panther comics writer Reginald Hudlin. In January 2015, Boseman said that the film was going through a brainstorming phase, and the next month Marvel pushed back the release date to July 6, 2018. Further casting was underway, and Feige was set to meet with directors after the release of Avengers: Age of Ultron at the end of April. By May 2015, Marvel had discussions with Ava DuVernay to direct this film or Captain Marvel. In June, Feige confirmed that he had met with DuVernay alongside a number of other directors, and said that he expected a decision to be made by mid to late 2015. By early July, DuVernay had passed on directing the film, explaining that she had been drawn to the cultural importance of depicting a black hero to the whole world, but disagreed with Marvel on the story and did not want to compromise her vision. By October 2015, F. Gary Gray and Ryan Coogler had been considered as directors for the film, though negotiations with Coogler had cooled, and Gray had chosen to direct The Fate of the Furious instead. Joe Robert Cole, a member of the Marvel Writers Program, was in talks to write the screenplay, and Marvel changed the release date once again, moving it to February 16, 2018. By December, discussions with Coogler were reignited after the successful opening of his film Creed. Pre-production. Coogler was confirmed as director in January 2016, and said that the film was his most personal movie to date, in part because he grew up reading comics, adding, "I feel really fortunate to be able to work on something I'm this passionate about again." After being wooed by Feige for months, Coogler agreed to direct the film if he could bring collaborators from his previous films to differentiate the film from other MCU films that are often shot, composed, and edited by the same in-house people. This included Fruitvale Station cinematographer Rachel Morrison, as well as production designer Hannah Beachler and composer Ludwig Göransson, who both worked with Coogler on Fruitvale Station and Creed. Coogler felt Black Panther would be unique while still fitting within the MCU's overall narrative. In April 2016, Feige said that Coogler was working on the script with Cole, and that filming would begin at the beginning of 2017. He added that the film would be the first Marvel Studios production to feature a primarily African-American cast. Lupita Nyong'o soon entered negotiations to star as T'Challa's love interest, and Michael B. Jordan joined in an undisclosed role, after previously working with Coogler on Fruitvale Station and Creed. Nate Moore, serving as a producer on the film by the end of May, stated that filming would occur in Atlanta, Georgia, with Marvel definitely investigating shooting in Africa, as well. At San Diego Comic-Con 2016, Nyong'o was confirmed for the film, in the role of Nakia, while Jordan's role was revealed to be Eric Killmonger. Also announced was Danai Gurira as Okoye. Coogler confirmed that filming would begin in January 2017. Additional casting occurred from September 2016 until the start of filming, with Winston Duke cast as M'Baku, a role that Yahya Abdul-Mateen II had also tested for. Forrest Whitaker as Zuri, Daniel Kaluuya as Kabi, Angela Bassett as T'Challa's mother, Ramonda, Sterling K. Brown as Njobu, and Letitia Wright in an unspecified role. Florence K. Sumber was revealed to be reprising her role as Ayo from Captain America: Civil War. Amandla Stenberg, who is biracial and light-skinned, was considered for a role in the film, but was not comfortable taking the place of a dark-skinned actor, and described her decision to pass on the role as really challenging. By January 2017, Marvel received permission from the Oakland, California-based public transit agency AC Transit to use their logo in the film for the opening flashback sequence. The setting was chosen due to Coogler growing up in that area. Writing. The production team was inspired by Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on Black Panther, who was writing the comic at the same time as they were working on the film. Of particular inspiration was Coates' poetic dialogue, Brian Stelfreeze's art, and some of the questions that it's asking. The film was also inspired by the comic runs of Jack Kirby, Christopher Priest, Jonathan Hickman, and Hudlin. Characters for the film were picked from throughout the comics based on what worked for the film's story. The ceremonial betrothal aspect of the Dora Milaje was not adapted from the comics for the film. Coogler had hoped to include Spider-Man villain Kraven the Hunter early in the process, because of a scene in Priest's run that had T'Challa fighting Kraven, but the rights to the character were not available. Donald Glover and his brother Stephen made some minor contributions to an early draft of the script, developing the relationship between T'Challa and his younger sister Shuri. Moore noted that an early script had more scenes outside of Wakanda to explore what it means to be African and African American in the world a bit more, and hoped these could be revisited in a later film, particularly a super cool sequence that was storyboarded before being cut. Feige described Black Panther as a big geopolitical action-adventure that focuses on family and T'Challa learning to be king, with Civil War laying the groundwork for T'Challa's morality and establishing the geopolitical landscape that he would have to deal with on returning to Wakanda. Moore compared the politics and humor of the film to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, saying that the former would be inherent, but not preachy, and that the latter would avoid the tones of Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man. He also said the film would be a cross between The Godfather and the James Bond films as a big, operatic family drama centered around a world of international espionage. Coogler was influenced by 1970s films such as the works of Francis Ford Coppola in that decade, as well as crime fiction. He also watched the film A Prophet for inspiration. Feige called the film's story rich in culturally relevant ideas, with Boseman indicating there were parallels to pull from in the film in relation to Donald Trump becoming President of the United States after Barack Obama, though Feige added that, "These are conversations we were having 2 years ago," because that is inherently the story within the comics. Moore said the film does not depend on the plots of any other MCU films, but it does affect the wider MCU moving forward, with Feige stating the film was a very important link to Avengers, Infinity War and its sequel. Civil War did introduce the Wakandan language, based on the Xhosa language. which Boseman was taught by John Caney, who portrays T'Challa's father King T'Chaka. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?